Hello, my name is Connor Quinlan. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the sample images that I took with the Nikon D7000 camera, including some high ISO images taken with the camera. Now, this is not the actual review that I made of the D7000. There is a separate video called the Nikon D7000 review that goes over many other aspects of the camera and does a complete and full review of the camera. I made this video simply because I wanted to make an HD video of with the sample images included. So you get to see these images in high resolution when you're watching. Now, what we're going to start with here is lower ISOs. You can see on the metadata here this is taken at ISO 200. I'm going to look at this at full size. Kind of zoom in at 100%. Now all these images are taken with very low depths of field in order to really be able to see the grains in the image in those blurry parts. Now here you can see there's a little bit of slight grain, not very much obviously at ISO 200, but even at ISO 200 I do kind of see a difference between the D7000 and the previous Nikon D90. Now I owned a Nikon D300, so that's what I'm best at comparing it with. Since the Nikon D300 and D90 were similar, that's kind of what I'm going to do here. With my D300, I always noticed that the ISO was pretty visible, even at ISO 200. You could see it decently well. Of course, it was just fine, but this D7000 is actually looks to be a better performer, even at ISO 200, than the D300 and the D90 camera. It might even, it's probably similar to that of the D300S actually in terms of how well it performs. But this is very good performance here at ISO 200 because even with the D300 I did notice grain, and this grain is much smoother with the D7000. Now we're going to look at sample images with a little bit higher ISO. Here's one at ISO 400. It is a little bit blurry, that's due to camera shake, and that's my fault. But you can see the grain around the plant here, and this is very well controlled actually. Much better than my previous D300 and probably better than the D90, way better than the D90 as well. This is surprising because you usually don't see a huge difference at lower ISOs, but with this camera you definitely do. Once again, the tone is the grain is very smooth, not quite as easily visible, because with my D300, ISO 400 was kind of tough to use. ISO 400 was actually worse than ISO 800. That's not the case though with the D7000 here. There's another image taken at ISO 400, a little bit brighter though. You can see that there's not much grain at all, very usable. Amazing performance. Now we're going to go to ISO 800. This is where you kind of start seeing the differences between its predecessor, the D90. And here you can see that the grain is very well controlled once again. And this is in the shadow region of the plant too. So this is a very stellar performance. This is easily better than the D90 and D300. This is even better than probably the D300S. Just a magnificent performance here. Much better than I would have previously expected. Then finally we got our last image here taken at ISO 3200. And you can see here, you can see the grain pretty visibly, but that's normal for a camera like this. And even so, the grain here is very well controlled. This image is very usable even at ISO 3200. Previously with my Nikon D300 and with the D90, I couldn't really go above 1600 ISO. Because the picture would simply be too noisy for prints. But this is actually, I would say, usable at ISO 3200. You can see in the sharp areas that it's actually, the noise is not terribly visible. And that's a pretty good thing because here we have a very low depth of field, so you can really see that noise in the blurry parts. But if this was all sharp, that noise would be a lot less visible. So this is extremely good performance, way better than anything below the Nikon D700 camera. So this is better than even the D300S in terms of performance. People have actually even compared this to being almost as good as the Nikon D700, which is insane. The image quality that Nikon has progressed with this Nikon D7000 is truly incredible. It's the same with the Nikon D3100 as well. The performance is very stellar. So overall, it's easy to say that the ISO performance outdoes pretty much everything that Nikon has in the DX lineup. And this has been a look at some sample images from the Nikon D7000 digital SLR.